I'm going to try to do it without. Can you hear me back there? Yep, good. That's what comes from being the youngest of 8 kids. So it's great to be with everyone. I actually appreciated the opportunity to hear where everybody was from and what they did. So it puts it in perspective for me. I very much appreciate the invitation to be with you today. I have been with you on other occasions out here, probably pretty well traveled out to this part of the state. I want to thank the economic development folks from Torrington for recognizing some of the programs that we have brought to Torrington, including, it sounds a little strange, but a mural project that actually has been very helpful and put Torrington, interestingly enough, on the map when it comes to art-based economic development. And so we're very proud of that effort and that collaboration. Not here to talk about the arts, I'm here to talk about Connecticut and our approach to manufacturing. Now let's be very clear, manufacturing is extremely important to Connecticut. Although we have been on the losing side on employment numbers, it still remains about 11% of all of our state employees, not our state employees, 11% of all people employed in the state of Connecticut are in fact employed in manufacturing. There's a number of reasons that we lost some of those jobs over the years, and I can certainly touch on them. There is certainly the fact that manufacturing is very different today than it was a number of years ago. Fewer people are producing more products in the United States than a few years ago. But there are also things that are intrinsic to Connecticut that have caused us to lose manufacturing jobs. Not the least of which is the expense of doing business in the state of Connecticut, not the least of which is the fact that for many years we had no energy policy. And as a result, we drifted higher and higher and higher in energy costs. In point of fact, for a number of years, we were the highest priced energy state in the nation outside of Hawaii. Hawaii, for obvious purposes, has to import all of their oil to an island in a fairly distant place. So you could almost understand why they would be so much higher, but why we were so much higher didn't make any sense. And nobody was paying attention to this issue. In fact, before I became governor of the state of Connecticut, Connecticut had no energy department, really isolating us in that regard. I'm happy to say that we're here and that electric costs have dropped about 12% since the time that I became governor. Some of that is as a result of taking some of the taxes, or actually, in one case, not borrowing an additional $1 billion and adding a surcharge to the energy bill, which was built into the budget that I moved into when I became governor. It wasn't my proposal. In fact, ION did it. We didn't borrow that $1 billion and didn't add it to the energy bill. But we've also changed how we procure energy, the mix of energy, and I'm happy to report here today that in other states, when energy costs went up in the past year, ours continued to go down. Now, we started at a higher place in New England for cost of energy, but our cost of energy has dropped more rapidly than any other state in New England. This is an important aspect for everyone involved in manufacturing, because after employee cost, and in some cases materials or raw material costs, the next biggest cost is in fact energy. It is also the reason that we are promoting a different set of energy. Some of you have heard me say this before. In the state of Connecticut, we have about 30% penetration rate on natural gas in our businesses and in our homes. That compares rather unfavorably with Massachusetts, which is bumping up at 50%, Rhode Island, which is bumping up at 50%, and New Jersey, which is bumping up at about 75%. Now, why do I talk about natural gas in this crowd? Natural gas is substantially less expensive and less violative of our environment than oil. And if we can meet our target of moving 280,000 new customers to natural gas, we will lower their cost of operation, we will lower their cost of operating their own homes, and we will make our environment cleaner. That's one of the many things that is contained in our comprehensive energy plan which I fought pretty hard to get passed by the legislature. If there's other questions on that, I'm happy to talk about those when we take a few questions. I'll warn you, I got to walk out the door at 9 because I'm kind of booked today, but I'd be happy to talk and then take some questions. What else are we trying to do? I think it's been touched on by a number of my state colleagues. We are concentrating on education in a gigantic way. Quite frankly, we took our eye off the ball for too long in the state of Connecticut when it came to understanding the needs of businesses in our state. Now, what was referenced is at 3 of our community colleges, we have new manufacturing centers. And I think I may have mentioned this on a prior visit. When I did my jobs tour around the state to understand what tools we needed in the toolbox that we didn't currently have to promote manufacturing and jobs in the state, I kept hearing about as Nuntuck. It's a community college up in Enfield, which has had for many years, about 13 years now, I guess at this point, maybe 14, a manufacturing center, which had an extraordinary placement rate with respect to its graduates, but also had an extraordinary rate of people moving up in manufacturing as they were taking those courses. I asked the obvious question: if we have 12 community colleges and we have a program that's placing almost every graduate and increasing the skill set of anyone in the program, why haven't we repeated that in any of the other 12 community colleges? There was no good answer. And therefore, we decided that we needed to grow at least 3 additional, and quite frankly, we need to grow more manufacturing centers at our community colleges in the state of Connecticut. And I am committed to doing that. There's some very interesting numbers coming out of the 3 new programs with respect to placement, higher placement rate in those programs than across most other education programs on our community college level. And it is the human capital that those of you who are actually involved in manufacturing require so much. I heard when I went around in some of the businesses here that I went to that one of your great needs was a trained manufacturing employee base. And that one of the other things I was frequently told is that people are graduating out of, put it another way, retiring out of manufacturing at a rate more quickly than we're able to replace them. Let me be very clear. We understand that that's a problem, and we are addressing it. We need to grow the programs at the 3 community colleges, and we need to grow other programs, and we also need to hold people to a very high standard. We have colleagues here from the technical school side of the house, that portion of the education program that's actually run by the state. We need to make improvements there, and we are making improvements with investments at those institutions. And we also need to hear on a repeated basis, day in and day out, from the communities that are served by those various institutions, what we're not doing right, how we can improve the product that you all need to consume, and that's that human product as well. So I invite you to be participatory, this organization to participate in making sure that each of our technical high schools across the state is doing the right thing. I will push that they have the right equipment, more modern equipment, more CAD/CAM design-based equipment. I love the Bridgeport tools. Of course, they're not made anymore, tool and die machines, but a lot of places have modernized them and converted them into CAD/CAM direct manufacturing pieces. We need to do that kind of stuff to make sure that our young people have that opportunity. Here's where you all come in. We also need to introduce more young people to manufacturing at an earlier age, right? Before they're convinced that manufacturing is not for them. One of the reasons we need to do it is manufacturing pays an unbelievably great salary. And I know some of this is skewed by the high-end guys and the big guys that are in the most highly value-added aspect of manufacturing, the Pratt Whitneys and the others. But when you look at the average income of a person full-time employed in manufacturing, a member of that 11% of our employment base, it's $87,000 in total remuneration. That's a pretty good, that's a damn good pay or remuneration for any person in the state of Connecticut. And yet we have spent generations of telling people to not be involved in manufacturing. So we have to reverse that course, and you can all play a role in that by bringing young people into your facilities, by introducing them, by having internships or summer jobs. And by the way, it's the best way to feed your pipeline, your need, been out to your place, that you have, in making sure that you have the human capital that you all so greatly need.